my first question was going to be, are you a big wrestling fan? But I could see by your shirt, the answer would be yes. You came
Yeah,
prepared.
yeah, man, definitely to say the least. I've been a lifelong wrestling fan from the time I was 8 years old to modern day wrestling. I was even a fan through my 20s, where a lot of guys will often, guys and girls will drop off and for a couple of years and pop back in. I was a stalwart fan through all of the Attitude Era, back into the PG era, you name it, and across promotions, obviously.
Mhm. Uh, Obviously, Brody Lee, AEW. What about today's stuff? Like right now, anything you see on TV that you're really
Got to
enjoying
be
right
honest
now?
with you, I've loved the direction AEW has gone. I love their kind of like classic wrestling storytelling.
Hmm.
It's a little bit less cartoony and over the top like the WWE universe. It kind of is fitting its whole new world. So I'm really enjoying the AEW product quite a bit. And I love what Tony Khan's been doing by, purchasing Ring of Honor and keeping these things alive that, we've all followed over these years.
Hmm.
And for me, I mean, Brody Lee is a hometown guy. I'm from Rochester, New York. He's a Rochester guy. And I love that he finally had been getting his push, in AEW. And then to have him pass away, it was heartbreaking for me. And obviously so many fans. But yeah, really enjoying the AEW product in general.
Yeah, it's a big week for them. The last match, you're involved with that.
Mm-hmm.
I have Jeremiah James with me here. We can talk a little bit about, I guess, what's uh, public now. It's the preview album party just took place. There's a concept album coming out August 29th. Um, I mean, this is kind of like new to me because I've never really seen like I've heard of album listening parties, but like this is it's a play, it's a performance. There's a little bit more involved than hey, come check out the new songs. Can you just kind of like maybe tell people what the last match is and how you got involved in the project?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the last match, a pro wrestling rock musical, is my brainchild from the very beginning. So I always wanted, as a producer and a writer, to marry like two of my greatest loves in life, which is obviously the world that I've worked in my whole career, which is theater, Broadway musicals, that sort of thing, and then my other love of pro wrestling. I'm also a Buffalo Bills fan, but I haven't quite figured out how to make that into a show yet. But make no mistake, it may happen one day.
I heard they're big on tailgating, so maybe
That's exactly right.
there you go.
But yeah, no, so the show is a fully immersive pro wrestling rock musical. And what that means is that if you're a wrestling fan like yourself, you're not going to ever walk into a theater like you would go to see Phantom of the Opera. This show is going to be in arenas. It's going to be a wrestling ring, a wrestling show like any other wrestling promotion you've ever been to live. It just happens to tell a 90-minute story from beginning to end, just as any other musical would tell a story. So you'll walk through the door, you'll be transported to the 1980s. Everybody in there, from the person who takes your ticket to the people who are selling popcorn, are all going to be in costume. That's what it means by fully immersive. So
Mm.
you will be taken into the past to what I believe is the golden era of wrestling. And we will tell you the story of a character named Ben Vengeance, who is like a, classic leader of the locker room, highly respected wrestler coming to the end of his 30-year career, and what that means. And really, the story is a universal story that we all have to face at one point in our lives. So if you no longer could be the person you've always identified yourself to be, whether that be a police officer, a school teacher, a firefighter, and all of a sudden you couldn't be that person anymore, well,
Mhm.
then who are you? Right. And then what is that person going to be enough as you go into the last phase of your life? Right. And so, really, it's just a very universal story told through the world that I love of pro wrestling. And it is a rock show. It is not musical theater rock, it is a rock show. Our composers are literal rock and rollers. The
Mhm.
music is like classic Bon Jovi, 1980s, hard rock. And it really is for the whole family. So when you come in to the show, in the immersive experience, you then go into the arena, and everything from the banners to the setup around the ring, it's all a 1980s nostalgic trip. And then there is a wrestling ring, a couple of platforms, everything that you know as a wrestling fan is built into this show. So it literally is a show written by wrestling fans for wrestling fans.
Mm-hmm. You said, like when I first heard about this, obviously like you're attached, some of the actors, there's that connotation that it's like a Broadway thing. But obviously when you say arenas, it takes on more of like obviously a pro wrestling event, but I'm thinking like when concerts are advertised as being in the round.
That's right.
Sort of that vibe. But arenas plural, is this going to be like, do you have plans to tour? Is this going to be one venue? Like, can you?
Yeah, so our hope is to take the show on the road and take it around the United States and then take it internationally. Again, the easiest way to think about this show is if you've ever been to SmackDown, if you've ever been to Raw, if you've ever been to AEW After Dark or any of their regular TV shows, a TV taping, it is literally a wrestling event. Mm-hmm. It just so happens that this wrestling event tells the story of this one evening completely encompassed in our version of like, a Bash at the Beach or a WrestleMania, like the biggest night of the year type of a thing, right? And leading up to this one character's last match and everything he goes through to that moment. So it is literally, when we say Broadway, it's easy to describe that for theater people who, are like, so it is a theater show. Yes, it's a theater show. It is being told, a story is being told. It has a script, but it's actually never going to be done in a Broadway setting. It will only ever be done in medium to large arenas, and it will be a wrestling event with closed circuit cameras. Everything that you know as a wrestling fan is built in, including all the actors have to learn pro wrestling to a certain degree, and we have real pro wrestlers come in to do actual matches throughout the show. So it is a real pro wrestling event that happens to tell the story.
Yeah, some of the names, I know Brutus Beefcake was at the preview album party.
Yeah.
Tito Santana and Demolition are also involved.
Yep.
What's that been like, getting to sort of work with them, if you have to a certain extent to this point? I mean, that's four of the biggest names from the golden era. We think of the 80s as the golden era. What's that been like for you, sort of having somebody like that to lean on?
Oh man, listen, this is going to make me sound like a total mark, but it's just the truth, and I can't lie. Like, it's been surreal. I mean, it's been surreal. Like the first time I got on the phone with Brutus, I literally I was like, you gotta keep it together, man. Like you have to be professional here. Like you can't like all of a sudden fanboy out over one of your heroes, And he's such a wonderful man, and his wife Missy is such a wonderful woman, and we had a really great conversation. But same thing with Tito. I'm explaining the process to Tito and what it is I'd like him to be as a part of the show, and how I would love them to lend their knowledge and help us bring this show to the fans. And at the very end of the call, like, Tito went Arriba, and I was like, that didn't just happen. Come on. So like, as a ridiculous wrestling fan my whole life, it's been surreal. Like, and then having him at a launch party for that album and the listening party, I was just, it's incredible. It humbles me, man, that they all are willing to be a part of it. And I'm excited to show them the full version of the show, because I think it's really going to connect with not only our wrestling fans and theater fans in general, but really to these wrestlers. This is a love letter to their world. And that was the thing that was important to me when I started writing this piece with my writing partner, Jason Husa, who really pushed through that first script, was that we got that right. That people that were wrestling fans and the wrestlers, actual pro wrestlers, the golden era of wrestling, all that sort of thing, that we did right by them. That they understood that this was not a mockery of their world, that this was not us just trying to profit off the backs of wrestling fans and a world that we all love and respect. Because to me, pro wrestling is an art form, and it's its own unique art form that has existed for over 100 years, and I really want people to leave this show, whether they've ever been a wrestling fan or not, to go, I get it. I get why people love this world. I get why people think that this is amazing, and the storytelling is its own unique art form. So it's surreal. Is all I can do is say that having them all a part of it and talking to them is a trip.
Any news on a premiere date, like where you're at as far as how far into production you are?
Yeah, so we're really excited that we're going to release a music video for the next single that comes out for the album on August 1st. And that'll be out. And then we release the full album, the whole kit and caboodle for the concept album on August 29th, obviously. Mm-hmm. And then we'll start rehearsals in September and do a full pro wrestling, stand-up concert version of the show in Jersey City at a place called White Eagle Hall. Okay. And we're really excited about that. And that's going to be really to give a handful of the general public that are lucky enough to come, and then investors and whatnot, the opportunity to see the show. And then from there, the goal is to put that show out on the road in the beginning of next year.
That's a cool venue. I've seen a couple shows there. Whether you're on the floor or on the balcony, you have a good view. Yeah. So, that's a pretty cool place to kick things off. One of the things, like, we've been kind of covering this as more news comes out, and I've been noticing Playbill, obviously that's, like one of Broadway's news sources, but Ramin, the news came out that he was added to the cast.
Yeah.
He's in Funny Girl right now. You're also part of the production.
Mm-hmm.
How's that been like? Because obviously you're working towards the premiere. This is a work in progress, but you're in a production right now. Are you thinking that far ahead of maybe trying to bring some of that audience with you, or, just on a broader scale, like bringing some Broadway or, some of your fans from that work over to the wrestling side?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the goal is, so first and foremost, to have Ramin a part of it is unbelievable. And I wish I could say I was some amazing, producer, negotiator, but the reality was, he had asked me what I was doing the one night because we're associated with Funny Girl and we'd known each other for years. And I told him, I said, I did a reading of, my new show. And he went, you have a show? You wrote a show? I said, yeah, I wrote a show. What's it about? And I said, it's this pro wrestling rock musical. And he went, what? I was like, yeah, man. He's like, how can I be part of this show? And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, if I could go back in time and not be doing what I'm doing now, and I'm very grateful for everything that I'm doing, and I have this wonderful career, but it was always my dream to be a pro wrestler. I love pro wrestling, and I love 80s and 90s pro wrestling. And I was like, well, man, here's your chance to become a pro wrestler legitimately. Mm-hmm. And it was so cool, man, because that's the thing about pro wrestling, and this, I'm sure, Bill, is that there are so many people that you don't realize that have been fans or used to be fans and watch it when they were younger, and it has stuck with them throughout those years. Wrestling has that really deep nostalgia factor because, when you're a kid, you're seeing these larger than life characters, that are literal superheroes in the flesh, doing things that you couldn't even imagine, right? So having Ramin a part of that instantly gives us a sense of excitement and legitimacy in the theater world, because he is a massive superstar in the theater world and recording world, internationally, all over the world. He's a rock star. So to have him even lending his voice is just beyond humbling. But the goal with the show, like I was saying before, is to bring fans from the theater world who have never experienced wrestling to walk out feeling like experts and having a true respect for that world, right? And so a perfect example that I like to use, a lot of people have heard of it, whether you've seen it or not. There's that famous old musical called Evita, right? Madonna did the movie, and there was a stage version of it that became the movie, right? Did anybody know who Ava Perón was before that show?
No.
No, no. I'm sorry, no way, right? And so, but they all walked out feeling like experts, right? Like, now I know everything about Argentinian politics from the 1950s, and I know Ava's whole story,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's my goal with the show. The theater people, because wrestling fans, the moment you guys arrive, you're gonna be like, I know this world. This is our world, baby. This was
Mm-hmm.
built for us, right? I want theater people and non-wrestling fans to come here and see this and go, I maybe watched it when I was a kid, or maybe I never really watched wrestling and I always kind of thought it was this, da, 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 to walk out and go, man, I get it. Like, this is brilliant. The art form is incredible. What they put their bodies through to entertain the fans, how the fans are connected as part of the storyline, and how they help people rise and fall, as characters and gimmicks and like all of these things. The goal is for them to walk out and become new fans of the wrestling world.
And to a certain extent, a lot of those things that you just said, as far as the fan base, the connection, being entertaining, the drama of it, those also apply to Broadway.
That's
But
exactly right.
the timing's kind of interesting too, because you're preparing for August 29th is the concept album, and then the preview show. But Funny Girls in the headlines right now for the actor changes.
Yep.
In some ways, there are some similarities to a pro wrestling storyline. There's controversy, or fans want to make it more controversial than it is.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
are you just kind of like on one hand, like, just, hey, this will pass, this is not my thing, or are you on the other hand maybe saying like, hey, this might get attention for my next project, even though it's not, you're not drumming on any of that up, it's kind of carrying on somebody else on the side.
I tell you, the thing with that is so wild. Is it's just one of those crazy circumstances where our show happened to be moving in the time frame that this all started to happen with Funny Girl, and it if it benefits our show in any way because people are interested in what Ramin is doing as a part of the last match, that's a wonderful thing. But also, I just to address the controversy of our show in general is that you know our business is a very difficult business, and it can be very heartbreaking. And Beanie Feldstein, I'm a huge fan of Beanie's, and she is not only an incredible performer and amazing talent, but she happens to also be an incredible human being and leader of our company. And it's been hard for us to sit back and see what's happened. And but all of these things have to do with business, and there are things that even we as members of the show don't really know or understand the circumstances that go into why just her as a person. And I'm just so grateful to have gotten to work with her, and I would work with her forever. So the last match becomes the biggest thing ever, she's getting a phone call because I'm going to be like, I want you in, Beans. I want you in to do this show with us. But, you know, I don't know how much any of the controversy from Funny Girl and the cast changeover will necessarily help our show. But, you just don't know. The entertainment business is crazy.
Yeah.
It's like the wild, wild west. You never really know what's going to happen. Kind of like your aspect of the entertainment business when it comes to wrestling directly. You know what I mean? It's like fans want things to be more controversial than they are. How much of it is the story we're being told by the wrestling world, and how much of it is actual reality of the wrestling world. And are they merging, are they crossing over, or are we all just being fed a line? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm just happy. It's just wild that here we are, our show is on its way, and all this crazy stuff is happening at the same time.
Yeah. There was a couple things that kind of stood out. Number one, it was like, oh wait, that's Funny Girl, like, you guys are in it, and I'm kind of covering the wrestling thing. And then I noticed right away, it's like you kind of just pointed it out, it's, well, these things are going on outside of my circle, so I don't really know what's going on. Is it, how much of it is fan perspective, how much of it is
Right.
reality. There's all these different, levels to it, but I'm excited to find out more about the play, the production, the show. I'm not sure if there's one thing to call it. It's very exciting. I started off thinking it was a play, but obviously it's much larger than that. No theater, no theaters. It's going to be in arenas. Again, you said hopefully we get to see it in a town near you, but White Eagle Hall coming up August 29th for the concept album release.
Mm-hmm.
So fans are going to get to find out more sooner than they think.
Yeah, we will have a limited amount of tickets available for September the 26th at White Eagle Hall. There'll be a limited number of tickets given away to the public and wrestling fans at large, because really, Bill, this show is for wrestling fans. We want people who love wrestling to come in and see the show. And the cool thing is, as you know, wrestling fans run the gamut: race, creed, color, age. It is a universal love of that world. And there's not even any bad language in the show. It literally is for the whole family, because we want people to come see an amazing night of wrestling and tell a really, really great story for wrestling fans in general. And we hope we'll keep you obviously up to date when we release those tickets for that Monday on the 26th of August at White Eagle Hall, because it'll be as close as we can get to what the show will be like. And there's some big surprises coming up with casting that you guys will definitely want to know as we get closer.
Talent. I'm speculating in my own mind that maybe we'll see some notable names from the wrestling world, but I won't pry anymore.
You would be right, my friend.
Okay.
You would be right.
All right. Thank you very much for taking the time. I really enjoyed getting to meet you, know a lot more about the show, and hopefully we stay in touch, as things go on. I'm really excited to check it out.
Thanks, man. It was such a pleasure, and I really appreciate you taking the time and chatting with us about the show. And again, this is a show written by wrestling fans for wrestling fans. So being able to talk to wrestling fans like yourself about it and explain really what the show is we're very grateful for the opportunity to chat about it. So I look forward to staying in touch and giving you more information.